podcast interview with Tamisha Tross and Karen Jacobs, the career of a lifetime exploring occupational therapy. Hi, thanks for tuning in. I had a wonderful opportunity to be interviewed by Karen Jacobs. She has her own podcast dedicated to occupational therapy. Please be sure to check out my book, 12 Case Studies. Simply click the link below to get access to my book, 12 Case Studies.
Welcome to Lifestyle by Design, the podcast. Our theme is helping you solve everyday challenges. I'm Karen Jacobs, your host. I'm an occupational therapist, a clinical professor at Boston University, a Brookline Rotarian, a mom, and an ama, which means grandma in Icelandic. Every episode will share lived experiences with you. I'm so excited to share today's stories. Well, I'm delighted to have this episode of Lifestyle by Design. I was at the Massachusetts Association for Occupational Therapy conference in October, and I was walking around to speak with different vendors who were there, and I was really impressed when I stopped at the booth of Tamisha Tross and asked her to come on Lifestyle by Design to tell her story. So, Tamisha, welcome. Please let us know. Thank you. I'm thrilled that you're here, and tell us your story.
Sure. Well, I tend to get this question often, and it's a little bit of a funny story because I never knew what occupational therapy was. Just like many youth, when you come out of high school, you're not sure what career path you want to take. So my dad and I went to a open house, and I was in Worcester, Massachusetts, at Worcester State University, to kind of hear about what medical professions is out there. And my dad was so fixated on me being a nurse, I was like, all right, well, let's go check out the program, let's see. And we were sitting there in the auditorium, and then they decided to start separating everyone into groups, and they had said, okay, everyone here for occupational therapy move to your far right. And I looked at my dad, and I'm like, occupational therapy, what's that? And he's like, oh, they call for nursing, let's go. And I'm like, can we sit in on this? Because I don't know what this is, and we already know what nursing is all about. So after we kind of went back and forth, he was like, all right, let's sit in and listen to it. And as I was sitting there, and one of the professors in the program, she was just explaining what it is and what they do. As corny as it may sound, it was like a light bulb that went off my head. And I said, Dad, this is it. He's like, this is what? I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do. And he's like, are you sure? I was like, yeah, this is it. This is what I want to do. So, after that, I was eager. I went home, hopped online, just started Googling occupational therapy, looking it up, and I said, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I should go shadow before I jump right, into this. So I went to a rehabilitation hospital to do about a 2-day shadow with one of the OTs and staff, and they were happy to have me. And, I really got to see a real good view of a life of OT. I got to see a driving evaluation done. This place that I went to was very decked out. They had a movie theater, they had a grocery store, they had a ADL suite, so it was like an OT dream. So after that, I having a discussion with the OT therapist. She also said, you know what, try it out and see what you think. And that's what I did. I decided to start off at Quinsigamond Community College for financial reasons, to just get started within the profession. And initially, when I had tried to get into the program, there's something called a TEAS test. And with the TEAS test, there's 4 different categories, and you have to pass those categories in order to be qualified for the program. And I, unfortunately, failed it twice. on the same category with the same points, and I couldn't believe it. I felt so devastated, but something in my heart told me this is what you're supposed to be doing. And, I spoke to the advisor, said, what can I do? And she was like, there's nothing you can do. You just have to wait another year. And I said, I can't do that. There has to be something for me to do to get into this program. So she said, you know what, you could go speak to the head, the dean, or, you could go speak to whoever's in the department for the OT program. I said, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I went and I spoke to the director of the program, and she said to me, you know what, I would love to help you, but I'm really not the one to make that decision. You're better off speaking to the dean of the program. So I said, okay, that's what I'll do. So I went, I had a long discussion with the dean, and she was very hesitant. She's like, you missed it by 4 points. We normally will be willing to allow people in if they miss by maybe 1 or 2. And I just told her, I said, listen, I will do whatever it takes, whatever I have to do to get me in this program, because I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So hesitantly, she said, okay, this is what I need for you to do. Because the part you filled was English, which has always been a struggle for me since I came to the United States, she said, I need for you to take some tutoring courses. And I said, I will do it, absolutely. When do I need to start? She's like, you start whenever you feel like you need to. So I said, okay. So I left her office, I went down to the library, and I signed up for tutoring in English that same day. So I went through all of my tutoring, and then once I was done, I let them know. They said, welcome to the program. I was in the program at that point, and by the end of the program, I actually got an award for straight A's in the program, and they actually gave me a rose called the Rose Capillarity Award.
Oh, fabulous.
So
that
was great.
Congratulations. And, I love that you persevered. And I'm, wondering if in other professions, if you had gone to speak to the dean and said, I'm determined, please give me a chance, what can I do? If they would have done that, I always keep thinking that occupational therapy as a profession is very distinct, and that we really care about people. And it sounds like that dean really heard you, and wanted to give you a chance. So congratulations with that honor.
Thank you. And when I was leaving her office, at the time my maiden name was Daniels, and I was getting ready to leave, and she said, you know what, Miss Daniels, you're a rare case. And I looked at her and I smiled, and I remember on the graduation day, I shook her hand and I said, thank you for the opportunity, I'm your rare case. So it's kind of a moment there, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. A full circle. And I do have to go back when you said it just seemed like a light bulb went off. I had the exact same experience with occupational therapy. I did not know about occupational therapy either, and I went into occupational therapy as an entry-level master's. I got my undergrad degree in a totally different subject because I didn't know about it. And it's the same thing. I think many people don't know about occupational therapy. I think they're learning more about it now than they did before. But it is like a light bulb. Oh my God, it all comes together. And it's the right profession. So keep continuing. So you graduated from school with honors.
Yeah, so I graduated, and I had a really good relationship with the now current director of the OTA program in Quincy, which is Miss Michelle, and we've stayed connected throughout all these years, throughout my profession. And when I was getting ready to graduate, I had a conversation with her, and I said, you know what, I really want to get into travel therapy. And she's like, well, Tamisha, I don't know if you should do that as a new grad, She's like, I really wouldn't advise that, but because I know who you are, I think you can handle it. So I said, okay.
Right out of school. Right out of school, you could
travel.
Wow.
Right out of school. I graduated in May. I passed my exam the first time in July, and by September I had my first job.
Wow. And then,
And
for those people that don't know what being a traveling occupational therapy practitioner, can you explain, a little bit about what that means?
sure, sure. So usually, you can find a recruiter, and they have a company where they are willing to allow people and help people travel to different parts of the country. Usually, it has to be over about 50, 60 miles away from home. I actually travel states away. I actually was living in Massachusetts, and I end up traveling to New Jersey to do my travel assignment. And the travel assignment is usually a 13-week contract assignment that you sign up for. And then after that, if the facility likes you, they may renew the contract. You could do another 13 weeks. Or let's say if you want to try a different place, then the company would also, again, assist you to the next location. And usually when you travel, they will set you up with housing. They'll give you a stipend as well as a salary. So when I went to New Jersey, they had placed me in a hotel. And then once my license came in and I started working, between myself and the company, we were looking for a one-bedroom apartment. I ended up finding the apartment. They approved it, and then I was off and running. Now, one thing I do have to say, and I do have some students ask me, what do you think? Should I do the travel therapy? And I was like, you know what? I honestly would not advise you to do it. And the reason I say this is because you really have to know yourself. You have to be a motivated self-learner. And I learned that very quickly once I started as a travel therapist. Because as a travel therapist, they're paying you to come in and help them. They're not paying you to come in so they can teach you. Okay? So every day after work, and I had a supervisor, our OTR supervisor, he was very good at what he did, and he was very specific on how he liked things done. And he was very fast-paced. And he would say, okay, Tamisha, did you finish your progress note? Did you do this? Have you saw these people? And I'm like, okay. So I learned his style of work, and I would say it took me about 3 days to really kind of understand how he did things, and then me and him were off and running. And every day after work, I would come home, open up my textbooks, get online, and read about the cases that I had, the treatments I did, to build on my knowledge. Because for me, being in that position as a travel therapist, I did not want to feel like I was lagging behind.
No, that makes total sense.
And, you just have to have a level of confidence, especially when you're in that position, because a lot of times they're in need of help, and they're probably overwhelmed because they may be short-staffed, and that's why you're coming in. So the time that it takes for them to actually teach you, and I'm not saying they wouldn't teach you, they would definitely, you have time to ask questions, but it's not like, you're going in there, you're being timid. You really have to put your big girl pants on and get to work.
Right, because on this traveling experience, there really isn't someone there to supervise you, is there?
You know what? There's some locations there's not. I've been on assignments where I had a OTR that would be in and out of the building at times. She would not be there the whole time I was there. And then other buildings, I had multiple OTRs that was on site. So it really depends on your assignment and your area, the location you're being sent to.
Oh, that's great, because I did not know that. I always thought that, being a traveling OT, you had to be, or OT practitioner, you had to be fairly independent and like you said, off and running right away without supervision. So that's really good to know. So how many years have you been in a traveling occupational therapy practitioner?
I would say half of my career. So I graduated in 2012. So I'm about going on 8 years now. So I would say a good run of that, about 4 years of that, was dedicated to traveling as a travel therapist. I did have the opportunity to go to Texas, but my now husband, he wasn't really for that travel. So even though I got licensed there, I never got the opportunity to really make it down there. But travel therapy, it's nice, especially if you want to go to different places. You just have to be willing to adapt. I would say that's the biggest thing. You have to be open to change, because a lot of times you're going to walk into a facility where they may not be using the same documentation system, and you just have to learn quickly and get the ball moving.
Great. So that's about half of your career. What are you doing now?
So now I do currently work at a skilled nursing facility in Hamilton, New Jersey. And that's where I spend most of my time. After I finished travel therapy, I was doing a little bit more per diem because I was preparing for my marriage and my son. And once I had my son, I decided I need to find a permanent position, and I am now housed in Hamilton, New Jersey.
Okay, great. So this is, becoming a challenging time to be working in home health or skilled nursing facilities with some change in reimbursement. Have you felt any of that yet in New Jersey?
Absolutely. We absolutely have. I mean, with the changes that occurred October 1st of this year, we've seen, and I hate to say it, but we've seen a heavy amount of layoffs and cutbacks because of the change. One thing that we're doing consistently now that we weren't doing in the past is groups. Now, when I first started out in my career back in 2012, 2013, we were doing a little bit of groups, but it wasn't anything that was really required. Now, I've noticed especially in skilled nursing facilities, groups is a big part of it. So now, instead of you having maybe a caseload of 8 or 9 patients, now you can see anywhere from 12 and up, in a day.
Oh wow, that's a big increase.
It's a pretty big jump.
And do you think we're prepared for that as a profession? To work in these groups. I hope in school that we receive training, and maybe in other placements that we've been in. But it sounds like the effectiveness of the group process is going to be very important, and to have the knowledge and skills and the confidence and competence to do a good job.
You know what? I think before everything started from this new system, a lot of therapists were nervous, and I think it's because it probably wasn't something they were used to. For me, not so much, because I am known for being creative. I have a YouTube channel where I just do a lot of videos pertaining to the OT profession on how to be creative, how to make something out of nothing on a low budget in facilities. So for me, particular, it wasn't challenging because I'm used to being fast on my feet and coming up with ideas. I actually liked the group because one of the groups I held, I call it an ADL group. And people's like, how do you do an ADL group, with a whole bunch of people around? And the thing is there's something called a TheraBand that I use all the time to simulate the sequence of donning and doffing a shirt or pants. And, in a group, I use it, and we use it through games like a relay, and you can be creative with it, and it really allows people to engage with each other. In these groups, I had a group of 3 men, and we were doing a little bit of exercise, and then we were going into a little more of the ADL activity, and they were just encouraging each other. And it was nice to see, because initially I was a leader, but then I was just kind of sitting back and watching them, and also too with helping people, I wrote this book, 12 Case Studies, and I also just finished doing another task that I was putting together, which is group therapy ideas, just to kind of help new grads coming in and current therapists figure out how to formulate these groups.
Oh, that's great. So what you're doing is using your experience to help others know how to work in this changing value-based environment of healthcare.
Right. You're absolutely right.
So when I met you at the MAOT conference, you had your book there.
Yeah, so the name of the book is called 12 Case Studies, and it's treatment, intervention, and documentation examples for occupational therapists working in skilled nursing facilities. So the book is tailored to skilled nursing facilities just because it's such a vast amount of where new grads go, or just in general, statistically, most of the OT population is currently working in. So out of the 12 case studies, I really decided to target cases that I would see, well, I should say diagnoses that I see often, such as stroke, dementia, congested heart failure, COPD, lymphedema, cancer cases, E. coli, MRSA, UTI, how to deal with these things, contractures. So the cases are based on actual experiences. Obviously, the names are different, and there's some changes with the case, but for the most part, it's really a good breakdown of the actual evaluation process, going in through the treatment process. How do you document? How do you bill for it? And then, I have a little extra tidbits at the end where I talk about how to motivate the unmotivated patient. If you're doing therapy exercises, how to make that therapy exercise functional and how to document for it. So I really try to give the reader a real good grasp on like a real life situation and what to do and what little ideas and tips that can help them, have a successful treatment session with such a heavy productivity and such a fast-paced environment.
Oh, that's fabulous. I know that it's going to be a really helpful tool for people. And, for, I think, people who have been in the field for a long time. Because, not everybody is creative like you. And it sounds
right.
like your book has quite a bit of tips that you've learned, but also ways of approaching working with clients maybe in a different way. So we're almost out of time. I want to ask you, what's next for you? What are your goals for the future?
Well, like I said, I just finished putting together just a quick little 10-page PDF. It's called Group Therapy Ideas for the Everyday Occupational Therapy Practitioner. And it's just a PDF that I'm actually just really giving out. And that's to kind of help with where we are currently. And then later on, I would like to get into academia, where I can do a little more speaking engagement, really getting hands-on within the profession, because I feel like my bread and butter is really intervention. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'd love to do. So that's kind of what I see myself doing in the future, really more getting into one of the universities and just doing some more speaking engagement.
That's fabulous. Well, I'm glad that light bulb went off when you were at the school.
Me too.
Yeah, because it's wonderful. Yeah. It's wonderful that you're part of this beloved profession. I'm so glad that we're both part of it. And I hope others that listen to this episode of Lifestyle by Design take a look at occupational therapy as a career of a lifetime. It's something that I think has so much meaning to all of us, and I'd love more people to consider going into the profession.
Yeah, and I mean, with me, I never stopped with my associates. I continued. I got my bachelor's. I definitely recommend that if, whoever is getting into the program, try to go as high as you can. Get that master's, get that doctorate, and reach for the stars.
That's great. Oh, thank you. Thank you for being on Lifestyle by Design. And our listeners, thank you for being with us today. This episode of Lifestyle by Design was produced by Karen Jacobs and Andrea Calso, located in Boston, Massachusetts, USA. Please subscribe, rate, and leave a review of our podcast. We welcome you contacting us at kjacobs@bu.edu.